Again, everyone, my name's Scott Dyson. I'm teamed up with Craig on camera, and we have just had a mega storm here in the Mara. It's been absolutely awesome. It only lasted. Look at that. All that water that you can see there drains down and towards the Musiara swamp. As Craig zooms in there, that's the area where the Musiara swamp is, just over there, just on the opposite side of the tree, that belt of big green trees. And isn't that fascinating? I'm not sure how many mils fell. I don't think we've got a rain gauge yet. We should get one. But I'm guessing somewhere in the vicinity of...
Well, normally up on the cameras in the studio, you have the dulcet tones of Master Henry. Now, to quote James Henry, you now have the irascible tones of Brent Leo Smith. Now, I'm quite upset with Scott & Co. because they stole my shot on Mountain Cam, and I don't have all the options they do. But we have just experienced a really massive rainstorm. Now, I've been watching how the water is flowing off the eastern bank of the Mara, heading down towards the river. And look at that. That is a road. Is it a road? Is it a river? It is indeed a road that has now become a river. And you can see the floodplains now just on the edge of the Mara River that are filling up. Now, I, of course, have access to multiple cameras, and we'll be keeping an eye on the Mara River to see how much it rises in how quick a time. But you can see that whole area, and now we're on in the triangle side, and you can see the floodplains are inundated with water, and it is the beginning of the small rains. And I think, well, for us Southern Africans who are used to living in a slightly more arid part of the world, small rain would constitute half our annual rainfall. It was quite a big storm. We actually had two storms that converged together and caused that. Oh, there we go. There's another road that has become a river by the looks of things there. Yes, that is the main road to Musiara Gate that is flowing. That white silvery patch about just above halfway through your screen. Now, I was hoping the sun would pop out for a little bit, because when the sun pops out, all these little patches of water are incredibly beautiful. And it does create some very special scenery. Now, however, Scott, Jamie, and the dulcet tones of James Henry, well, I'd say the damp dulcet tones of James Henry, because he was trying to get across the river to the Salas area this afternoon, and he didn't even make it before that massive storm caught him. So hopefully he took a pair of dry pants with him, because he is going to be very, well, grumpy if he hasn't. Okay. Now, as I say, I've been keeping an eye on the river, so let's go across to Main North, and let's together find a spot where we can measure the rainfall from. So I think, oh wait, there we go, let's go down. Let's find a spot. Okay. Ooh, yes, I think that's... Well, maybe it's not going to rise that much. Let's have a look a little bit further down. Hello, Hippo. Well, we'll find a spot to measure the height of the river. Actually, Hippo has given me a good idea. So now there's a rock. There we go, just to the right-hand side of school now, almost centre. Someone has been playing with the speeds. And you can see that hippo. Well, due to the early rain and cool weather, the hippo is now going to head out for an early graze. No problem from the sun. But here we go. We got that rock that is... The hippo is almost opposite now, but closest to the camera in the river. That's going to be our measuring rock. I think that's the best measuring rock. Unfortunately, there we go. Here we go. Up you go, big boy. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you have any questions for us about the storms in the Mara, the incredible animals, and everything else that's going on here. Now, is our picture frozen? No, the hippo is just not moving very fast. Now, they are capable of moving very fast, faster than Usain Bolt, in fact. Now, as our hippo wonders, whoa, and I wonder how to operate this machine, it seems like Scott has managed to make it down to the muddy floor of the Mara.
Well, we're nearly down there, and shame, Brent sounds like he needs to work on the joystick there, controlling the camera. Sounds like he's having a hard time. Sorry, Brent. So we're almost down on the valley floor, not too far to go, and it's such a crisp and clear and beautiful afternoon now that the deluge has passed. And really looking forward to this afternoon safari with all of you. We are going to be limited to the main roads. I don't think we're going to be doing any off-roading, and even most of the 2 tracks off the main roads are going to be unnavigable after the rains. The soil type in this area is very sponge-like. Therefore, after some rain, it turns into a Land Rover eating swamp, which we don't certainly want to have. Hi Christy, you'd like to know if the amounts of rain that we've had would be enough to possibly cause harm to any animals with den sites, like any lion cubs, I guess, hyenas. And I don't think there was quite enough rain to cause that kind of a damage, but yes, I mean, the Talek River, for example, was dry a few days ago when some of our crew members last left there, and if anything had stashed any cubs down in a dry riverbed under a little kind of rooty crevice, then of course there could be trouble. So yes, I mean, for animals that may have used dry riverbeds as places to stash youngsters, they would have come unstuck. But general den sites in, your average area, I don't think would have had any major issues. It wasn't that much rain. I'm guessing we had about 20 to 30 mils. It'll be very interesting to hear what Brent has to say about that, what his guesstimate would be. I think if we got in the region of 50 or 60 mils, upwards of that, that's when I think flooding becomes a bit more of a reality. Marvelous. Well, let's not delay to get Brent's guesstimate on the amount of rain he thinks has fallen, and also to ask him if he thinks there's any way of actually finding out who is the winner of this challenge. That would be very wonderful. Good, off you go. We'll see you a bit later.
Oh, hello. Welcome to the mountain camp. And right below camp we have some visitors. Some zebras. I actually spotted them, not with the camera, but looking through the studio window. So they're about 10 meters away from me. And people often wonder, do we get animals in camp? Well, there we go. I'm in camp. And our mountain camp is mounted on the edge of migration control. Oh, we've got more zebras coming in. Let's go a bit wider. Where do you go? Hello. So there we go. You can see the Angama staff village over there. And right in camp we have got some lovely zebras grazing. Now, have we got some birds as well? Now, yes we do. Hello, juvenile oxpecker. Scotty was wondering, come back, yeah, don't run away. Are those red-billed oxpeckers? Those are quite rare in the Mara. I will get to Scotty's question now. I'm just getting too excited about the birds, and the zebras are escaping. Yes, there we go. That might be a new one for a lot of people's Mara bird lists. The yellow-billed oxpecker, they're flown away, is far more common in the Mara than the red-bill, but we do see them from time to time. How? Isn't that wonderful? Oh, who would have think? So you never know what's going to happen on a live safari, even if you're in camp. Now, as Scott was wondering how many millimeters of rain did we have? I would say at least 40 or so. But I think, I'm not sure, maybe Angama has got a weather station. Otherwise, I think we need to get ourselves a rain gauge in our camp. Now, you can make a rain gauge at home. It can be quite fun. Now, look at that. There you go. Oxpecker in the ear. Busy little chaps. The zebra looks like it's quite enjoying it. Normally, if it wasn't enjoying it, you'd have both ears quite flat. It almost looks like the oxpecker's found a ticklish spot as it looks for parasites in the zebra's ear. Now, we are quite lucky to live in a spot where we get animals in camp all the time. So this is just one of those times. Now, we do have a male leopard that comes into camp quite frequently, and you can hear him. Oh, there we go. Now the zebra's had enough. Enough of oxpeckers in the air. See how their ears go flat? So very, very similar to horses in terms of their body language that lets you know whether they are happy or not. Oh, multiple oxpecker pronged attack. We'll see. I don't know how long it's going to take. Now, oxpeckers, strange enough, are able to digest earwax. Now, not normally from animals as small as zebra, but from rhino and buffalo in particular. They have been known to be able to... Whoa! That's it. Enough of you, oxpeckers. Oh, don't walk so fast. My camera doesn't move that fast, zebra. There we go. Now, that is right in camp. Now, where we were... Oh, let's go across to Main North quickly. Let's check on our measuring rock. There we go. Ooh. I know it's terrible. I've got a joystick, so you always try and make the noises. You want to make noises when you're driving it. Oh, I know. Sorry, I'll stop now. Where's our measuring rock? There is our measuring rock. So remember, we're keeping an eye on that rock to see how high the water comes. If it's going to go over that rock, and how much local rain we had that will affect the level of the Mara River. Normally, however, the river levels of the Mara River are far more influenced by rains in the Mau Highlands. So the Mau Highlands, sorry about the little freezes there, is where the Mara River sources. It's at over 3,000 meters, so very, very high. Now, oh dear, there was a crocodile. Of course, he slunk away. But every now looking back towards camp at the moment. Hi, Philip. Philip's wondering, are our cars able to cross the river when it's like this? Or do we rely on bridges? We can't cross the river when it's at its lowest, Philip. So we do rely on bridges. There's a bridge just outside of the park. To the north. There we go. I spotted you. Oh no, you went under the water. Okay. I do have some crocodiles on Main South, however. So, Philip, we do use the bridges. There's a bridge very close to the Tanzanian border that's referred to as, depending on who you chain to. Of course, the crocodiles just keep disappearing every time I find them. As Purangut Bridge or the Mara River Bridge. Now, there's another bridge just outside the park to the north. I don't even know if that one's got a name, but it goes towards the village of Mara Rianta. And when we go through to Musiara Gate and we go have a dally around the marsh for the Bilishaka boys or possibly for Amani's twins, we'll go through and over that bridge. Now, I'm going to see if I can find more animals on my cameras than Scott, but so far he's got one that we do actually have in camp sometimes, but hopefully not too often. Let's go across to Scotty and a big pachyderm.
Yes, sadly, I haven't seen any elephants in camp yet, just zebra that come grazing between our tents at night, which is quite funny to hear their hooves clicking away and them chomping literally by your head. How cool are these elephants soaked so that their coat becomes many shades darker than it ordinarily is. Surprisingly, she's got a dry patch on the top of her back there, but kind of below her spine. I don't know how on earth that managed to stay dry, considering the deluge we've had. So that's been boggling my little brain a little bit. So our plans are to head towards a few tiny lion cubs. I've never actually been into the area since they've been found. It's the Leoaprd of 3. We've got a few tiny furballs, I'm told, and their den site is not too far from here. So looking forward to popping across there, and this is who we bumped into along the way. Imagine using your nose to look for your next meal and pick it up and plonk it in your mouth. I'm convinced they do more smelling than looking when it comes to acquiring their food. That's why she'll point that trunk from side to side and hold it close to the ground, almost like a vacuum cleaner picking up scent, and any scent that attracts her or at least excites her taste buds, she plucks out the ground and chomps down on. There's the rest of her herd, and a windmill. At least it's working. I love a little windmill when it's spinning like that. I find them very peaceful to look at. But obviously, ordinarily you wouldn't see a windmill with elephants in the foreground, so this may be a first for you. And the reason why there is a windmill there is because there is one of the askari or ranger posts called the Olololo Gate, where the tourists have to make sure they've paid their $70 per day for entering. So if you're planning a trip to the Mara, do factor in the fact that you will be paying $70 a day to have the joy of traversing this place. It's a real bargain. So I'm told Brent didn't actually hazard a guess. He got a bit sidetracked teaching you how to build your own rain gauge, and I'd like to see the pictures of your final finished products when they're done, just so I can make sure that Brent's tutoring was up to scratch. Jumbo Habari Missouri. I just said, hello, how are you? Good. Very quickly, as we don't have time to chat with everyone. Hello, Reety. Good to have you on safari with us again. You would like to know if elephants will mud bath to keep cool. And yes, they certainly will. Of course, they'll have no need for doing that today. But yes, that is one of their favorite techniques for keeping cool, and it's one of the most awesome things you could watch an elephant do. Sometimes if you're really lucky, even the big bulls will roll down in these mud wallows and kind of break dance, rolling around, splashing mud everywhere with their trunk flailing around. Sometimes you also get to see them swimming with just their trunk out the water, like a periscope. So yes, one of my favorite things to watch elephants do is take the old mud wallow. Also, tiny young babies can be very cute when they get excited, slipping and sliding in the mud. Warthogs also like to do that. Those are the two main species that like lurking around in mud wallows. So then again, rhino is another one, and buffalo. So all four of them are kind of on a par, actually, when it comes to wallowing and mud bathing. Salute. You must salute the rangers. Very wonderful. So, I forgot to mention earlier on, and I'm not sure if Brent has mentioned, but if any of you are joining for the first time, it's important that we reiterate that this is happening live this very second. Hard to believe, but true. And if you would like to chat with us or confirm that it is in fact a live safari, and we are not trying to fake a safari, a live safari, send through your name, the country you live in, and I will get back to you to confirm that this is happening right this second. Okay, well, it sounds like Jamie hasn't made her way down the hill yet, but she should be down into the action area soon, so you can look forward to meeting her. But now you're heading back to Brent, and please try and get a number from him regarding how many mils of rain he thinks has fallen this afternoon. So if we do get to the bottom of it a bit later on, we will have a winner, either me or him. Off you go. See you later.
Well, hello, we have a hippopotamus, and Scotty, I did say, I said between 30 and 40 millimeters of rain is what I think has happened, or has fallen so far. But we are now looking at a lone hippo, but why would we want to look at a lonely hippo all on his own in Main South, when I have now discovered a whole raft of hippos at Main North? And they are looking up. Well, you see, he's put his head down. He doesn't want to be there. There we go. Hello, hippos, Main North. So when you get large groupings of hippo like this, there's often a lot more interaction between them. And I think especially at this time of the day, after a big storm like that, they're probably thinking thinking about getting out onto the grazing. Look. Oh, there we go. And there's sometimes a little bit of argy-bargy. You can see quite a lot of threat displays going on. When a hippo yawns like that, he's not because he's tired, he's because he's showing either you or another hippo that he's not, or he or she is not to be trifled with. And it is a threat or warning display that is used by hippopotamus. Now, I think that display was actually at a hippo to the right who's moving in. Now, females will use that threat display to try keep males away, especially when they've got young babies, or from just being harassed generally. Here we go. What's happening there? There's a little bit of bumping. I do love the way their ears wiggle, though. Wiggle. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you do have any questions for us, and hopefully Jamie will be reaching the bottom of the hill quite quickly. Hello, D-Shark. D-Shark is wondering, will hippos spend their lifetime in one river? Well, in one area. They will utilize... Oh, hello, you popped up right in front. They will utilize pans, especially the young males, but the females will generally spend most of their time in a single river. Now, it all depends on where you are in Africa. So where you've got a river like the Mara, that is flowing all year round and holds deep, lovely pools for the hippos throughout the year, yes, they will spend almost 90% of their life in one river, apart from the young males who get pushed out and have to live in the luggers from time to time. But if you go to places like the southern... Oh, here we go. We got some action a bit closer. Like southern Tanzania and even the Kruger, for example, some of those rivers and waterholes dry up quite quickly. And, oh, there we go. There's a bit of a fight happening. And they dry up during the dry season. And the hippos will sometimes move from smaller rivers into bigger rivers at the same time. Hello, Lauren. Lovely to have you here this evening. And Lauren is wondering, do hippos sometimes attack crossing animals such as the wildebeest and zebra just out of sheer annoyance? Yes, they do. Hippos can be quite grumpy and can get quite annoyed, and occasionally they will attack animals that are crossing. I always quite enjoy it after a big rainstorm, and hopefully if it's not too windy down, and it doesn't look too windy, hopefully a bit later on Jamie or Scott can let you listen to the incredible frogs that I think will be jumping, croaking, squeaking, beeping, blabbing all after that lovely rain. Now I just want to have a quick look down Main North. And make sure there's no lions hiding on the banks. But alas, no sign of the Paradise Pride, and it seems like Jamie and Fergus have managed to get their way all the way down to the bottom of the Mara. So who's going to get stuck, Scott or Jamie? Let's go find out.
It's not me, I really do. A very good afternoon to all of you and welcome to the Sunset Safari. My name is Jamie and this afternoon Fergus is on camera with me, and at present I wear the Marshmallow Queen crown, so to speak. So essentially for our new viewers, that is basically whoever gets stuck is crowned the Marshmallow King or Queen, whoever, you know, however it happens to go, and then the next time somebody else gets stuck, then that title is passed on to them. So at the moment I hold it because I went across the Mara River, showed a complete lack of common sense and drove through what I thought was a puddle, and it wasn't, and it happened to be in the middle of the night, and worse, I had to call someone to come and get us. in the middle of the night in the middle of the reserve. I had to call someone from that easily the nearest place that we could have got help from was about an hour and a half's drive. So at 10 o'clock in the night, we finally caved up to our eyeballs in mud, Manu and myself. My boots have never felt so heavy. They were coated in black sticky mud. And at 10 o'clock we finally caved and desperately started to call around to get someone to come and help us. So at the moment I wear the Marshmallow Queen hat, metaphorically speaking. Perhaps we should make a real one. I think we should, actually, because it is the rainy season now, apparently. So it has arrived. So I think we should make a proper, maybe not a hat. A hat's going to cause a problem. Genre will be deeply upset if we have to put a microphone in a marshmallow hat. Might work for buffering the sound, though. A marshmallow. Tell you what, we'll make a little marshmallow that goes on that person's car. How's that? You have to carry it around. I'll be the first, unless Scott gets stuck now. He wants to go and visit that den site. I was going to do the same thing this afternoon, but I changed my mind because he's brave. He's a very brave man. That is where the drainage from all the rain up in the mountains happens. Now, Jared's buddy, a very good afternoon to you. You want to know how many roads become impassable during the rain? Without meaning to sound too obvious, I guess it depends on how much rain has fallen. It's definitely less down here than up there, and there was definitely more across the marsh. I would say that at the very height of the rain, if we get more than 40 or so mils, I would say pretty much every single road out here is going to be closed. That would be my guess. Not the main roads. The main roads will stay open. That would be my guess. The rest of them will be shut. But I guess that's something... Oh, there goes my hat. I guess that's something we'll just have to experience for ourselves. Off you go to Scott, who still isn't stuck and got a large eland for you.
Shame. Sorry to hear about Jamie's getting stuck. That's no good. And sorry to hear that a wonderful hat is also blowing off in the wind. Sounds like she's having a tough time. Here's a beautiful herd of eland, and there's a hippo. You don't get to often show your hippos out the water, especially during the day. But because it's nice and cool, they've possibly started their forage early. Wonderful. Like I said a bit earlier, we are planning on heading towards a lion den site with some tiny cubs that I've yet to see. And I'm really excited about those prospects. And the good news is that there are some vehicles that appear to be in that location. You can see some vehicles over there, or at least one, and another eland popping into the frame, and there's another vehicle behind that eland, and that is where we need to get to. So it should be about another 5 or 10 minutes until we get there. And the fact that there are some vehicles there means that the prospects are looking very good. So, if you want to see some tiny, cute lion cubs, cancel whatever plans you had for the morning, afternoon, day or night, depending on where you are watching. And I've got some more good news. It's not just the possibility of lion cubs, it is now the reality that you are going to be transported all the way down into South Africa with a man who's been on leave and should be fresh and excited to see you. Over to Tristan.
And Juma Game Reserve from a sunny day. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I do have VM, and VM has been doing all kinds of tech duties to try to get rid of all of the gremlins, so hopefully that will be the end of it for the afternoon, and we'll be able to get out and see what's been happening. We had such an incredible storm last night. There was lightning and thunder, and so that's what's caused a bit of our gremlin issues, but it also has rejuvenated this whole landscape. It is amazing just to see that there are mud wallows that are full of water. There is little leaflets coming out of all of the trees, and even a bit of green grass. So it should be a wonderful next couple of days as we watch this transformation from the dry up brown stuff to the nice green grass and leaves that we should get. Now remember, this is live, it is interactive, which means that you can do hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat if you want to get hold of us, and hopefully it's going to be a busy afternoon. So far it's been a little on the quiet side. We've just been, like I say, dealing with a few tech issues, so we've been at the Gari repeater sorting those out, and then we now are we've just come past Treehouse Dam. Treehouse Dam, funny enough, doesn't look nearly as full as I thought it would. I thought we would have seen a situation where it would have been a lot fuller, given that Shabamu pans have got water in them. So we're going to go and try and check around Twin Dams now and just see how the water looks there. I believe Gowrie Dam itself looks quite good, and that there is lots of water in Gowrie Dam, which is fantastic news. And so hopefully we will get a little bit more rain and just keep topping up all of these dams over the next little bit. But while we head towards Twin Dams, we're going to just check Elephant Carcass on our way, see if there isn't any sign of Hosanna or any of the usual suspects, because I'm not quite sure where any of the leopards are at the moment. And so while I go and check Twin Dams, let's go back to Brent Leo Smith all the way in the Masai Mara.
Yes, we are back looking at the same river, the Mara River. Not much has changed on this part of the world. But we are keeping an eye out. I saw some game drive vehicles a little bit earlier, and I hoped that they perchance found the Paradise Pride, but alas, they haven't, unfortunately. But let's go across to Main North, and we can check our rock, our river rock. There it is. Is that it? Yes, that's it. There we go. Now, for me, it doesn't look like the river's come up too much. There we go. It doesn't look like the river has come up at, or maybe a tiny bit. Now, Bill is wondering, are there any good fishing spots in the Mara? I'm sure there are plenty, Bill, but it is somewhere where you are not allowed to fish. It is a national reserve, or it's a park. There is no fishing. You'll be in very big trouble. Fishing is considered to be the same as poaching, or it is a form of poaching. So no fishing in the Mara, unless you want to go to jail. Now, Dave is wondering, how deep is the river at this very point? Well, here it's quite shallow. It's probably waist deep, so maybe a meter and a half, but there are some deep hollows. There are some very deep pools at different places, but on average, the Mara is quite a shallow river, and that is, well, good for the wildebeest, but it is quite a strong flowing river, and there is quite a lot of ups and downs. As I say, it can change its height or very, very quickly and become a raging torrent of death into anything that tried to cross it. But at the moment, it's still not too high. Now, I'm going to try find Scott on my mountain cam, but while I do that, Scott has got 3 species of mammal and one of the most beautiful birds in the Mara.
We certainly do have a fairy tale scene here with, like Brent says, Thompson's gazelle, Topi, and zebra, as well as possibly one of the most beautiful birds you will ever lay eyes on, in my opinion, the crowned cranes. Look at how awesome they are, as well as those colors and clouds in the background. All the animals are looking crisp and clean after getting drenched by some rain a bit earlier, and they're going to be very, very grateful for that rain, because they know in a few days' time this grass is going to be a carpet of green. Look at how cool those red flaps are beneath the beak, as well as the other little red dot just above their eye, just at the base of their crown. I'm not sure, can we throw a punch zoom in there by any chance, Craig? Doing! Look at that. How epic. Beautiful. A fairy tale scene here. But we must not delay too much, because there are more wonderful scenes up ahead. So we are going to continue on our set mission to try and get some cute tiny little lion cubs in front of the camera for Craig and for you. Hello, Nutra. I didn't quite get your name too well, but you'll know it's you, and I'll get a confirmation shortly. You would like to know... Morning, anyone? Okay. Our Askaris just spotted some antelope that are running kind of wildly around, and I did also notice one or two, so let's just have a look and see if they're not prancing for joy or trying to run away from any possible prey. Oh, look at that tiny little baby Topi. It still looks a little bit wobbly. Who knows, maybe it was born in the storm. Or maybe it's just so cold afterwards it's battling to maneuver its tiny spindly little legs. You can just make out its umbilical cord. So it could have literally just been born. Let's take a closer look. They'll find their feet within 20 minutes to half an hour. And that, to me, you can still see the umbilical cords flapping in the wind, which means it's still completely wet. Which means I think this tiny little Thompson's gazelle was born very recently. It's got a bit of a limp. Maybe that's confusing me. Oh, you see that jackal in the background. Maybe that is what's happened. Look at that male Topi on the right that was posturing there, trying to make itself look as big as mean as possible, and he's also been rubbing his horns in the mud, and he may well have been chasing off this jackal that looks to be coming back in. And maybe the reason why this this Topi is limping is what may have happened is the jackal may have either wounded it, or one of the Topi that were trying to bash the jackal off it may have accidentally hurt that young little calf. Now, we may be in for a seriously emotional sighting here if this jackal persists trying to hunt this young Topi, and I think there's a good chance that it will. That is, in fact, if it did ever hunt it in the first place. The fact that the antelope were kind of running around quite wildly could mean, like I said, just that they're happy after the rains, or it could mean that they were running because of the excitement caused by that jackal. I'm just going to scan the plains quickly with my binoculars and see if I can't see any other jackals. Often they operate in pairs. Hi Philip, you'd like to know if antelope will give birth in private or just where they're standing. It depends on the species, but as far as I'm aware, Topi will not detach themselves from the herd when it's time to give birth. And in this case, I think it's fairly safe to say that that youngster was born within the last couple of hours, and I don't think it would have traveled too far from being born to where we're seeing it out in the open here with some other herd members. Looks like her previous offspring is the one following behind. Ah, well, good news. It sounds like it's going to be a baby-filled afternoon because Jamie has found a tiny little giraffe. We'll be sure to... Ooh, let's just hold on a moment here. Let's hold on here and watch what's happening. Jackals, albeit small, are very crafty animals. And I've actually seen them hunt and chase down and tire out a Thompson's gazelle, the same gazelle that's following it now. Cheeky little thing. And Tommies are quite well known for chasing, or at least running up to possible predators like the cheetah. We've seen them doing that. Now, let's watch closely. Where is... Oh! There's antelope fleeing away from that jackal. Let's have a quick look at all the antelope fleeing away, Craig, quite a bit further to the left. They've moved off quite a distance, but it'll be cool to see. There's a massive herd all running straight to our left now, Craig. Yeah. So they are bombshelling, as you can see, away from that tiny little jackal. So you can see that even such a small predator can command quite a lot of respect. I'm trying to keep an eye on the jackal now. I've lost it. Oops. Where's the jackal? It's such a vast open plain that it's somehow managed to disappear. I just want to make sure we're not missing another jackal somewhere, because like I say, they often work in tandem. Oh, there it is at kind of 11 o'clock, Craig. But for now, it seems like the coast is clear, so we'll be sure to stay in this area and make sure we work out exactly what this crafty little jackal is going to get up to. But for now, I think we can send you off to Jamie and her cute little baby giraffe. We will keep you posted on any updates here.
We have got some lovely baby giraffe, but I think much like a Scots antelope, the wind is causing a little bit of panic and pandemonium amongst the various animals out here. Although I think some of them are quite happy, because honestly, a moment ago I saw a buffalo do a little dance. I'm not joking, I promise. A female buffalo, jumped up on her back legs, waved her legs around, and then landed again and carried on eating. Like nothing was wrong. But the wind has picked up, and I think that's what's causing the distress. These two little ones are like either mirror images of each other or reverse mirror images of each other. They seem to either be looking in the same direction or opposite directions, and they keep mimicking each other's behavior. Now, it's very common to see two giraffe like this of a very similar age. Their mothers often leave them, so while it's possible that they could be twins, it's unlikely. Giraffe don't actually have twins all that often. It's more likely that they're two different calves from two different mums, and they are just a little bit separate from them. The rest of the journey is on its way towards them now, slowly coming out of the forest. There they are over there. Every time I look there's more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, Wildlife Heart, you want to know how tall a baby giraffe is at birth. Surprisingly tall, and I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you the exact amount in a moment. But first, let me explain why. Giraffe are very disproportionate animals when they're born. I mean, they're disproportionate animals as it is. But when they're born, they have to be born to be able to keep up and run away from the predators, but at the same time, keep up with their mothers as they run. And so they have these very, very long legs and surprisingly stumpy necks. So if we look at these giraffe now, and then if we have a look at the giraffe, the little baby giraffe on the right, you can sort of see what I mean. And there they go. There they are. So at birth, a baby giraffe can be as tall as 6 feet. So around about 2 meters or just under 2 meters, and probably weighs somewhere in the region of between 50 and 60 kilograms or over 100 pounds. It's a big baby. It's a very big baby. And it has to be in order to keep up with the rest of the group. So there you go. You see what I mean about them being disproportionate? Because at the same time, baby's actually got to reach underneath the mother in order to suckle. So I would say that these two are probably in the region of 3 months old now, maybe a bit younger. That would be my guess. They grow incredibly fast. Philip, it's hard to tell with little ones. You've got to actually look at the sort of the more obvious anatomy difference when you're trying to gauge the sex of a baby giraffe. So Philip's asking, are they females, or is it just that their ossicones haven't solidified and become bald yet? Now, ossicones are the little protrusions on the tops of their heads, and typically in females they are quite tufted and hairy, whereas in males the top part has been rubbed bald, and they're much larger and sort of more solid looking because the males use them to fight each other. It's hard to tell with baby giraffe though, because obviously, like with most baby animals, they haven't reached sexual maturity yet. Their testicles won't have dropped, and it's not as easy to see exactly whether or not it's a male or a female. I suspect, looking at their bellies, I suspect that they are both females. You can usually, even in the little ones, see the penile bump quite far along on the belly. I think, oh look, he's got an umbilical cord still. So younger than I thought. That's about a month. Less than a month. No wonder they're so nervous. That umbilical cord does stay for a while. It's very, very common to see baby giraffe with an umbilical cord that hasn't yet dried up and dropped off for quite a while after they are born. So these are not new baby giraffe. There's Panic! Panic and Pandemonium! What are you doing? You crazy creature. Coming to have a sniff at the babies. Jared's buddy, yes, you could call a group of giraffe a herd. Oh, this could be interesting. I really just want to watch this behavior play out. Because that, to me, these are all youngsters now, coming up to have a look at the babies. Curious youngsters. Hey! Now trying to show dominance over them. This is interesting. This is like a group of older teenagers coming to show just how big and strong they are to the little ones. Oh, we're all dancing today. Intimidation. Oh, shame, baby. It's okay. This is fascinating. Sorry, but the correct terminology is actually a journey of giraffe in terms of collective nouns. But I've heard a lot of scientific journals. I've read a lot of scientific journals that refer to them as herds. But technically in English, one of the best collective nouns, a journey. I quite like skyline as well, especially when you see them all walking together on a slope. I would guess that those are all young males at the back. Might be females reaching sexual maturity and showing... No, definitely male. Definitely male. Still hard to tell even at this age. So literally a group of teenage boys that have come and bully the youngsters. Also a male. Walking away from the sort of the medium-sized one is a male as well. The two little babies have made their way away. This is a group of young teenage boys throwing their weight around. Such awkward animals. Now, just because you were bullied by the other one doesn't mean you can come and bully the little one now. Wow, we've got the whole spectrum of ages here. From, I would say, just over a month to maybe about 8 months old, maybe even older, the one at the back, and a whole series of ranges in between. This is fascinating. Natural instinct from the baby there. Now what we're going to get is giraffe phlegm and grimace from the big male. Don't you just want to give him a big kiss? That's a silly face. Oh, and he winked at us. Beautiful. Oh, here we go again. Another good sniff. Another phlegm and grimace, or are we done now? Yes, that is a baby. You are not going to get lucky with a baby. Yeah, that guy's not having any of it. Teenage hormones and a little bit of dominance thrown in on the side. You can see, even on this particular male, the largest one in this grouping of 3, even his ossicones haven't thickened yet. And they are still tufted at the top. So this is definitely a male. You can start to see the thickness, but they're still tufted. And that's because he's a pubescent male giraffe. You're causing pandemonium, mister. You really are. You are causing absolute chaos. And the mothers don't really intervene. I mean, they're letting this whole situation play out, letting the little ones essentially, well, figure out their own dynamics. There's the other two. They've decided to band together. Seems sensible. It's one of the best giraffe sightings I've had in a long time. Now, Lisa, you want to ask how long the baby stays with its mother. If it's a female, it might actually stay for almost its entire life. So although giraffe don't have set herd structures, it's quite common for the females to actually stick around with mum. Now, the males will leave it around about just over a year and a half, so around about 15 months. The females will probably leave their mums at around about exactly a year and a half. But as I said, they could stay with them for a long time. So it's not uncommon to see a mum and her older daughter and then have them having 2 calves between them. Is that mum over there? Yes, that's mum over there. Little baby's having a drink. And that is why they have the short necks. There you go, look at this. Encouraging mom to produce milk in the way that all animals do. You don't often get to watch giraffe do it though, which is headbutting their mums. There, look at that. Stephanie, yes, giraffe can have twins. It's not as common as was previously thought a couple of decades ago, because people would see the situation like the one we just saw with 2 giraffe calves of similar age and assume that they're twins. It doesn't actually happen very often, but it does happen. And they're such big babies, you can imagine the strain on the mother's body, and then the fact that they would be born very, very small. Oh! Unceremoniously dislodged, little one. I'm sorry. Trying again. Oh. There we go. So now we're watching a baby suckle from mum. The baby, proud cat mama, lovely to hear from you on the sunset safari. Baby will usually suckle, I would say, between around about 9 months and 12 months of age. So between 9 months and a year. After that, they are fully weaned. They will start to eat solid food. They'll start to nibble on solid food at around about 4 months old, and they will actually become completely weaned at 9 to 12 months. Actually, what I was going to say was they really start supplementing their diet at 6 months old. There you go. Even now, a little exploratory nibble. Such pretty creatures, especially at this age. Okay, while our journey of giraffes stride off across the road, we're going to send you back across to Tristan, who's enjoying his first afternoon back on Juma.
So we've come down towards Chitwa Dam. We went and checked Twin Dam's treehouse. No real sign of anything going on there. There was the odd guinea fowl moving around, and so Chitwa Dam is looking absolutely fantastic. It is really filled up a little bit. You can see in front of me here, there's all this sort of wash away that's happened during the night. There's lots of erosion that's taken place, and so Chitwa Dam is looking as good as possible. And there is a lot of hippos, and particularly a rather playful couple of them. There's 2 of them that have been mouthing off and yawning and carrying on and going at one another, and there's a little baby in amongst them as well. So it's beautiful to be at Chitwa Dam at this time, and especially after a little bit of rain. When you've got rain like we had last night, everything feels so much cleaner and almost washed off, and when you come to this area, it is just absolutely beautiful. You've got the blues of the water, lots of birds around. You can see many Egyptian geese. They are displaying towards one another as well. I would imagine we're going to see a few Egyptian geese even going into mating rituals. Hippos in the background. So lots and lots of stuff happening, and like I said, the Egyptian geese will probably be mating. The hippos are fairly happy. I'm sure they were loving the storm that came down last night. We didn't get as much rain as I thought we would have got. We only got about 25 millimeters and 30 millimeters towards the sort of eastern side, but still enough to fill up quite a bit of the pans and things like that. And so things like hippos are going to be really chuffed with that, and a lot of our grazing animals as well. As we've been driving along, Viam and I have noticed little small green shoots that have been coming out, so it's going to be wonderful for all of these animals. And like I say, I'm sure the hippos are very happy to be seeing a little bit of water falling from the sky. I would imagine we're going to get a little bit more as well. You can see there's still some big clouds on our eastern horizon at the moment, and I believe there is a massive storm that is rolling in on Durban, and there's lots of flooding going there, and there's quite a big system behind it. So I would imagine we're still going to get some more rain in the next few days. But you'll see also perched on top of the tree is some beautiful mosque swallows. Now, this is not a swallow that we get on camera very easily, and in fact, the only place that I've seen them regularly is here at Chitwa Dam, and they are easy to identify. They look very much like the red-breasted swallow that we get in this area. That is a summer visitor. These guys we see all year round. We had them even in the winter, and you'll find that they've got that cream-colored throat, and so that's what differentiates them from those red-breasted swallows. And then they've got those deep blue wings and then the russet sort of tummy area, and they often sit on trees like this, and then you'll find that they'll groom themselves, and then from there down over the water surface, where they'll either hunt little insects or they're going to be drinking water. And swallows have this typical kind of movement where they come down and they just scoop up little mouthfuls of water from the surface. So they are a beautiful, beautiful bird, and like I say, one of the few places on Juma where we can consistently get to see them. And they're actually not the most common bird in the whole of the Sabi Sands. In fact, it took me quite a while to see one of these in the Sabi Sands. I only saw them when I was down on the Sabi River at Lion Sands for the first time. So, nice bird to have around, and definitely one of the more pretty swallow species that we see. You're asking if any more of our migratory birds have arrived back at Djuma while I've been away. Well, James, I arrived back last night, and this morning early I did hear what sounded like European bee-eaters, so the first of them. I didn't hear them before I left. Then the class's cuckoo, which I did hear just before I left, they were around this morning, and I can actually hear one right now calling towards Chitwa Lodge side, very, very faintly in the distance. And I'm just trying to think what else I heard this morning. There was another migratory bird that I heard this morning that I didn't see before I left, and I can't for the life of me remember which one it is. It'll come to me later. I also did see on the drive in yesterday, I saw one of the cuckoos. I couldn't see exactly if it was a common cuckoo or which one of those grayer cuckoos it was, but there was one that was flying around just outside of Gari Gate, and so that was quite nice to see. But other than that, I haven't really had a chance to explore too much. This afternoon has really been the first time that I've been out, and so just listening and trying to pick up what sounds I can hear. I'm pretty sure we'll start to see a lot of the migratory birds, particularly after a big rainstorm like last night. That was very windy. That will have blown in some, and there's also going to be an explosion of insects around. Now this is also one of the birds that we don't see very often. So there is a sandpiper. Now the sandpipers are interesting birds. We get a number of different sandpipers here. We get the common, the wood, and the green sandpiper. Now it's not a common sandpiper because we can see that it doesn't have a white C on its wing patch, and I will show you what I'm talking about when I get all the sandpipers up, and you'll see why they can be difficult to ID. So we know immediately that it's not a common sandpiper, so my feeling is that it is a wood sandpiper. I just want to make double sure. The wood sandpiper does have the big white eye stripe that you see on this particular individual. Just before I went on leave, so it was the first of the sandpipers that I'd seen that had come back. So I'm pretty sure this might be even the same individual. There wasn't one at Twin Dams when I went past earlier, so it might even be the same one. Now I'm trying to just find this sandpiper in amongst all of these birds. There we go. Now I'm on the right track. There we go. So the sandpipers that I was talking about are on this page over here. Sorry, I'm going to find them now. So there's the marsh sandpiper that I was talking about there. We can see already that it's not that. Even though it does have a bit of white there, it's not nearly as mottled as what we just saw. Also a very clean chest, and the legs are not very bright yellow at all. So the other sandpipers that we're looking for, which should be over here, is your wood sandpiper and your green sandpiper and common sandpiper. Now the green sandpiper, we know it's not that, given that this white eye stripe doesn't extend past the eye. The one that we just saw now, the white eye stripe went past the eye, so that's this top one, which is the wood sandpiper, like I say, the one that we saw around Twin Dams before I went on leave. I'll have to give a think of other birds that I've heard though while I've been back, and while I do that, let's go back to the Masai Mara. I'm not actually 100% sure who we're going back to because, well, I didn't actually hear very well at all.
It's me! Surprise, surprise, it's me. And we're still with our giraffe, although they have moved off quite far, and there's a vehicle that would like to come past, so I've just given him the thumbs up. Whee! There you go. And he's gone. So we're still with our giraffe. Unfortunately, they're still acting completely crazy, though. They really are. I mean, they're dancing all over the place. That one young male is causing chaos and pandemonium. And this has really been quite a lovely giraffe sighting, and as if it couldn't get any lovelier, we've got an elephant that looks as though she should be in some kind of toothpaste ad. Now that the rain has washed her tusks clean. Almost completely. Okay, it was maybe they looked cleaner from further away, but they definitely look really, really white, especially because she's wet, so she's really dark. And they just seem to glow. They're almost luminous in their paleness. And really, we've had quite a lovely sighting, considering we've just come out onto the main road. Elephants, giraffe, and everybody rejoicing after the rain. And I'm really glad that we did have this rain, because it was getting quite dry. I was actually shocked when I drove through to Musiara Marsh. Oh, goodness. And just how dry it was yesterday morning. Okay, we're going to send you back over to Scott, who has had some lion luck.
Well, we have found some lion, not the ones we intended on finding. In fact, quite the opposite. This lioness is busy romancing a beautiful big male lion. So we have not made it to the den site, but instead we have come to a place where lions are making the next cubs, which in theory will be born 3 months from now, after about a 90-day gestation period. Now, I'm guessing that these two lovers have come towards the end of the 3 to 5 day mating cycle. The reason being is that their last and only copulation we've seen them make was a very, very relaxed affair. There was no hissing or growling and snarling at one another, which is usually a good indicator that they are coming to the end of what can start off being quite a ferocious affair, lions making love. But we will get to see that a little bit later. Not the ferocious affair, that's just them making love. And for those of you who may be joining for the first time, you may be surprised at how quick the whole affair takes. It's about 2 or 3 seconds from mounting till copulation. And it varies, but they can be mating every 10 to 15 minutes on average throughout the day. There are some peaks where they could mate every 5 minutes, and there's some lulls where they may mate every hour or 2, depending on how they're feeling, the weather, temperature. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes. I mean, we were in the sighting probably for about 5 minutes before we saw them copulate for the first time, and that's when we realized we were not at the den site. Well, who knows, maybe we are. Maybe there's a lioness tucked away in a lugger just off to the right of the lion with some cubs. That would be a very pleasant surprise. Good. Well, it sounds like you guys have been having a great time with Jamie and the giraffe and the very crystal, well, not crystal clean, but the very clean ivory of the elephants after the rain has soaked them and everything else. Even that lioness, you may have noticed a little bit earlier, has a big patch of mud on her face. She's got some makeup on. So yeah, obviously either I'm not good at following directions, or haven't been able to get to where Jamie suggested I go, due to the fact that we bumped into these guys. Now, what has this lion seen? It is looking very, very intently off behind us. I want to quick scan with the binos. It's going to be hard for Craig to saw the camera around to where she's looking, so just rely on me for now to see if I can spot anything, which I can't at first glance. Interesting. Well, I'll keeping an eye on things there, because certainly something has got her attention. Isn't she beautiful? Whew. That is a serious stare that she is casting. What is it that she's seen? I'm going to have another little scan behind us. Huh. Well, their eyes are definitely better than ours, that's fair to say, but I'm not convinced they're better than ours with the help of binoculars. Okay, well, we're gonna sit tight here and try and work out what it is she's staring at, and be ready to be raced back to us as soon as she starts heading towards him to seduce him into the next round of courtship. We will rush you back so you can see exactly what goes down. But over now to Brent, who is going to be comparing the water levels to the previous measurement on the rock that he showed you.
Well, I think it's come up a little bit. You can see there's sort of a little mini waterfall in the middle of the rock that wasn't quite so prominent as it was earlier on today. So I think it has possibly come up a tiny, tiny bit. Now, other than that, so far here on the river, all is peaceful. If we come wide, we might get some swifts and swallows flying over the edge of the water. Possibly after the rain there could be an explosion of mayflies or stonefly larvae or damselflies. Well, not the larvae as such, but it'll be the adults that have now exploded after the rain and are taking off out of the river and off to breed and then lay their eggs in the water and die. Oh, there's a bit of a hippo. The altercation between two youngsters there, by the looks of things. Oh, sorry, I got a little bit quick there. There we go. Maybe a bit more playing than an altercation. But again, I can see that hippo doesn't look too chuffed. There we go. Oh, they're just playing. It's little ones having a good bit of fun, bumping around and playing in the nice cool weather. Actually, what is going on here? Yes, it's a little one playing with the bigger one. There we go. Cheeky little one. Oh, isn't that cute? Oh, having so much fun. And now we have got one very large, big grey beast. But it's definitely not my favourite large grey beast. But it seems like Jamie has found one of, or two of my favourite large grey beasts.
I think a firm favourite of everybody out there in the world. We have not one but two rhinoceros to show you. And I have to say, it's considering we've not moved much more than about 500 yards or so from our main turnoff, we've seemed to be having an epic afternoon. Between the giraffe, the elephants, and now the rhino moving straight out in the open, and if we play our cards right, could come right past us depending on how skittish they are. We really have had some wonderful luck today. When I was 8 years old, I fell in love with rhino. I got to hand feed one called Buana at a rhino rescue center in Lapalali. Oh, and that was it for me. They were my favorite animals from then onwards. I did a big school project on them a couple of weeks later. And I really enjoy the temperament of a black rhino. They're not overly aggressive creatures as they're made out to be. They can be angry little creatures. And I say little because they're that much smaller than the white rhino. And they huff and they puff and they're often more bluster than they are seriousness. And they're very unpredictable, which I enjoy about them. What have we got here? Looks like two young boys, actually. The one on the right is definitely male. The one on the left, I can't see, but I think it's also a male as well. Now, although the black rhino are browsers, it looks at the moment like they're eating grass. They're not eating grass. They're eating the shoots of small perennial little bushes. Not perennial bushes, little bushes, young baby bushes. Things like woolly caperbush, the crotons, those are all growing up. Ilana, the only time that you'll see rhinos together in a breeding pair is when the female's in estrus, which happens about every 3 years or so. And during that time, the female is actually rather unfriendly towards the male in the beginning. Usually you'll find if it's a mature female, she already has a calf with her because the female comes into estrus when the calf is about 1.5 years old. And the calf is with her, and she tends to chase the male away, sometimes for up to 2 weeks at a time before she'll let him mate with her. And that's because she's waiting for a bigger, stronger male, if there is a bigger, stronger male to come along. So she's just giving him some time to find her. She's quite picky about these things. So rhino courtship is a very interesting thing to witness. But once the female has mated with the male, they will go their separate ways. And I have often seen groups of rhino together that include the females and the dominant bulls, but then they're not in a breeding pair. So they're not monogamous. It looks like a scar on her backside there, on his backside. They're not monogamous in any way, but they are territorial. And the females, well, the males are territorial, and the females have home ranges. So it won't be uncommon to find them with the male at other times of the year, even if she's not breeding. But it's more a sort of a social gathering than anything else. And then he'll move off often after less than a day, and he'll go off and patrol his territory. But they are more social, both black and white rhinos, than we give them credit for. So it's very common to see a pairing of young boys together like this. Paula, although the mother comes back into estrus at 1.5 years, when the calf is 1.5 years old, the calf will continue to stay with her until she gives birth to the next baby. So that gives it a range of around about 3 or so years that the calf will stay with mum. When it's time for the baby to leave, it's actually a very traumatic thing for the little one, because mum gives birth to a new calf, and all of a sudden, and it happens very suddenly, and it seems to be quite a shock to the older calf. But all of a sudden, the female wants absolutely nothing to do with it, and she chases her older calf away quite aggressively at times, and this poor older calf doesn't know what on earth it's done, and often squeals a great deal, makes a great deal of noise, and tries to rejoin her. And it's probably one of the most dangerous times, I suppose, in a baby rhino's life, because it's still 3 years old. It's big, but it's still a bit more vulnerable. It's on its own for the first time, and what often happens from then is that it will go off and it'll find an older sibling or another group of rhinos, and it'll hang out with them. And often, if it's a female rhino, or even actually a male, often they'll go back and rejoin mum after that initial period has passed, and after she's more comfortable with her new baby, and the new baby's big enough to handle visitors, so to speak, then often that calf will return to mum once again. No, baby rhinos are not born with their horn, although they are born with the horn growth point, and by even about 3 months old, there's a noticeable little bulge that is growing up from the base of the horn. So it's essentially, remember, a rhino horn is basically a fingernail made of the same material as fingernails and hair. Obviously, it's not exactly the same, but it is essentially, it's keratin rather than bone, and it does grow up from the growth point, which is almost like a cuticle. So it's very sensitive, and it extends down below the skin, just like with your fingernails. You know how the fingernails grow from the base, and if you rip out a fingernail, it's very, very painful. The rhino's horn is the same. So there's quite a bit of it below the skin, and the babies will start to grow, start to build up, and it becomes quite apparent at about 3 months old, and then you can actually gauge the rhino's age by watching its horn growth. And the interesting thing about black rhino, especially the females I've noticed, is that unlike the white rhino, which have a very clear distinction in terms of size between the front and the back, often with older black rhino, like these guys are still too young, but often with older black rhino, you'll find that the back horn grows almost as long as the front horn, and often even touches it. That looks like an old puncture wound, I would say, that's healed up. Christy, young rhino calves, in terms of their mortality rate, actually have quite a high survival rate up in under natural circumstances. So what I mean by that is, provided we don't throw humans into the equation, which unfortunately at the moment we're having a tremendously negative... Sorry, I'm distracted. We have a tremendously negative effect on the rhino populations. But if we take human beings out of the equation, the mortality rate for baby rhino is very low. The mothers are very, very protective over it. And I would say that it's only, I would say around about 20% would be a guess, maybe even less than that. So they invest a huge amount in their offspring, just like elephants do, and they're very, very protective, and because they're such big animals, most of the time they can keep them safe. It'll depend on the lions and the hyenas of an area. They're the two predators capable of tackling a baby rhino and distracting the mother with numbers sufficiently to get to the baby rhino. But it doesn't often happen that way, and for example, in a place like the Mara, it's not really worth the trouble. It's unlikely to happen. So it's something that they're very, very good at. It's a slow growth rate, but they're very, very good at keeping their babies safe. Speaking of excellent mothers, Tristan on the other side of Africa, on the southern side, has found another creature that arguably is one of the best predator mothers out there.
Now, this particular hyena is in no mood to be tackling any rhino calves and is taking a very, very nice, cozy nap on the edge of Chitwa airstrip. And where hyenas lurk, well, there can be lots of other things around, and in particular here in the Sabi Sands, those that like to dangle from the trees. And there you can see the beautiful Tingana. He is up in a tree, and he's got himself a really big meal. So not only does he have the one impala that is draped over the branches over there, but he has a second one on the other side as well. So last night I was saying there was a raging storm, and this just goes to show you how opportunistic leopards can be, in that they will catch not only one but another one if the opportunity presents itself. So what you probably would have found with the lightning and the thunder and the absolute chaos that was going on in the driving rain, impalas were running all over the show. He would have killed one, the noise would have been drowned out by the noise of the storm, and another one maybe panicked and ran straight towards him, and he grabbed that one and has now put both up the tree. And luckily for us, the hyenas have arrived, and that means that he's up with his carcasses, and well, I think Tingana is going to be here for quite some time, given male impala. The one on the left I can't see very nicely, but either way, he has got a serious amount of food to get through. So I think Tingana is going to be a regular in this little spot for the next probably 3-4 days, I would imagine, maybe even more, unless he drops both of them, which is highly unlikely, or the lions find him here. If the lions come, they might try and attempt a hijacking of those meals, but otherwise there's nobody else that's really going to challenge him. Interestingly enough, apparently Tumba is not far south of us at the moment, and so I wonder if little Tumba is going to come and venture in this direction just to see what's going on. But it seems as though Tingana is a very happy lad in his tree, and why not? He's got a beautiful view of Chitwa airstrip down towards Juma Dam. He's got food, the sun is shining, and is about as happy as a cat can be. He'll be dried out after his storm last night, and so the coat will be nice and clean and dry, and you can see his little smiley face on his shoulder. Now I believe a lot of you are saying good job Tingana. He has done certainly a very good job, and luckily he hasn't stolen it from anybody else, which is also great news, because we know Tingana can often steal from others. So I'm glad that he's done some work on his own this time and has caught himself a really, really decent couple of meals. And you'll find that these guys are really going to take advantage of this. I would imagine that a lot of leopards last night caught a lot of animals. You can see he's just lifting his head. There is somebody closing the hangar doors, which has made a bit of a noise, and so there he's just having a little look in that direction. Sarah, you're asking if an animal gets struck by lightning and dies, since we're talking about storms, would a predator feed off its carcass? Well, there's an interesting theory behind this that no, predators don't feed off the carcasses of animals struck by lightning. Oh, there's a nyala crossing the airstrip behind the hyena. That nyala at least has not too much to worry about, given that Tingana has got 2 carcasses already. But it's an interesting one. There's a lot of schools of thought that a lot of the predators, when they hunt and go after food or items, there is adrenaline that is kicked up in that prey animal, and the adrenaline affects the taste of the meat, and they prefer that taste to animals that haven't died of any sort of chase or anything like that, and there's been no build-up of adrenaline. I'm not 100% sure that's true. I have seen animals that have been killed by lightning. There was once a situation down in